It. All right, before we get going here, I'd like to do an acknowledgement before we call the meeting to order. We meet today on settled indigenous land, which is traditional territory of the Chinookan peoples of Wasco, Wishram, Warm Springs, and Grand Ronde tribes. Let us honor this land and its traditional native stewards, past, present, and future, and strive today to embody a commitment to cultural equity and reconciliation, ecological conservation, and sustainability. I hereby call the meeting to order at 4 p.m. Tia, will you do a roll call, please?
Yes. Greg, Chair.
Here.
Megan, Vice Chair.
Here.
Tamara, Secretary.
Here.
Jim.
Here.
Elazar. Gisela.
Here.
And Matt.
Here.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate that. The staff has requested a change to the agenda. They have requested the removal of agenda item 8A, employee questionnaire under the executive director report. Any other explanation there, Amy?
Just that I got a little bit myself putting it on there. We'll discuss some information, and that's related to the employee questionnaire, but is also related to the executive session.
Okay.
And then next month, we will come back with the more general discussion and how we're moving forward.
Okay, sounds good. Is there a motion to accept the removal of agenda item 8A?
So move.
Okay, thank you, Tamara. Any other discussion? Oh, wait, I probably need a second. Second?
Second.
All right, thank you. Any further discussion now? All right, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, any opposed? Chair votes aye. We'll remove that from the agenda. In your packet, you received the minutes from the March 18th regular board meeting. Hopefully everybody's had a chance to review. Are there any changes anybody would like to make? Seeing some head shaking, no. Nobody up on the screen. Okay, if there are no changes, I'd entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you very much. We have the second. Thank you, Tamara. All right, any further discussion on the minutes? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, any opposed? Chair votes aye. Minutes have been accepted. We're on to public comment. I'm not seeing any public out there that I'm aware of. All good there, okay. We're on to agenda item number 5, which is our quarterly accounting report. Emily, I know we see you up there. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Can you all hear me okay?
You can.
Perfect. Okay. Well, I will try and share my screen. See if it'll let me. Probably should ask.
He'll allow you. He's nice.
I have clicked the button.
Thank you so much. All right. So it'll take a minute probably to show up for you. But as usual, you have the packet with the QuickBooks reports, as well as my memo kind of giving a summary of what happened. And I played with extra graphs this time, so hopefully that was extra pretty for everybody. Can you all see this now?
Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. Okay. So as usual, we'll just go through kind of both reports simultaneously. So starting with the statement of net position comparison, this year compared to last year, let's see, you ended this quarter with about $1.7 million, which is a $372,000 increase over last year. Fairly consistent, but we'll talk about the difference as to why you have more cash this year over the course of the rest of the report. Your liabilities at the end of the quarter were about $4,000 in credit cards, which is about $660 more than it was at the end of the third quarter of 2025. And then your current liabilities for this, these are accrued payroll liabilities for, my words have left me already today. My goodness. Union dues and retirement contributions were $2,600 for like $500 more than last year. So in general, very consistent. Current liabilities are only about $1,000 more than they were at the end of third quarter 2025. which brings us to the equity. Your total fund balance, which is, the governmental version of equity, as of the end of the quarter was a total of $1.734,000. $302,000 of that was restricted, and then a total of 1.43 was unrestricted, which is about 83%. So you actually have more unrestricted this time than you had last quarter. But your STIF funds are actually slightly more restricted than that they were. And then there was a decrease in your capital asset funds because you transferred some of that to cover your bus purchases. So in general, your restricted funds moved around a little bit between where their restrictions occurred, but in general, there was about a $19,000 increase. So that is your net position. And then I also included the graph that shows kind of over time what your net position has done. You can see it's pretty consistent over time. You guys had kind of a blip in the fourth, or I guess it was the second quarter of fiscal year 2025, where you got close to $2 million because I think you got a bunch of reimbursements at once, and then you guys bought that property. And so your fund balance went down, and then you kind of have been slowly increasing back to what is more your normal level, which I would say is between like 1.6 and 1.7 is sort of historically what we have seen. So you're kind of back up to what your normal level has been. Does anyone have questions on these things before I move on?
Pretty straightforward.
Okay, perfect. Statement of activity, your revenue for the first 3 quarters of the year was $2.68 million. And that's about $15,000 less than the prior 3 quarters, but really year over year, that's very consistent revenue. And those revenue amounts fluctuated, of course, between categories. Like you can see your contract revenue was a little higher this year versus last year. And so were your federal funds, and your state funds fell down a little bit. But overall, and then that's why I included this graph too, so you can kind of see like the total amounts by category and where those fluctuations occurred. But overall, it's very consistent revenue. You're still about $10 million short of your budget, but that was because you anticipated some big capital projects which have not yet been executed, and therefore you don't have the revenue for those. So that's your total revenue. Cost of goods sold for the year. Your total cost of goods sold is just about $520,000, which is less than last year by almost $170,000. And you're still under budget, about 26% under budget. So actually you're pretty much on track to hit your budget for your cost of goods sold for the year. The sub accounts of those include your fuel, vehicle expense, operating expense, driver expense, advertising and marketing, and then the contract grant match funds. So you can see the categories here broken up. Overall, you're under, but if you just look visually at the colors, you can see that the orange category, which is the vehicle expense, is significantly higher this year than it was last year. This year's on the left, last year's on the right here. And then your operating expense, which is the sort of darker green category, is a whole lot less this year than it was last year. So in detail, we'll go through those. The fuel expense through March was $124,000, which is about $5,000 less than the prior year. Again, very consistent. I don't think that will remain for the rest of the year. I think we're going to go a lot higher, but I don't think we're going to beat, but we're going to like blow the budget. So that is good news. Obviously, nobody knows what's going to happen with the international fuel supply issues, but we are hopeful that they can be resolved soon. The vehicle expense is higher this year. So that totaled $223,000, which is $36,000 more than the prior year, but still $6,000 under budget. The majority of that increase was an increase in our repairs and maintenance expense, which partially has to do with what we've already talked about with a change in who's doing the repairs, and you guys just had some higher repairs this year. And in general, everything's just more expensive too. So all that together created a $29,000 increase compared to the prior year. And then our insurance also went up. So you pay your vehicle insurance every January, so once a year. And in the renewal insurance this year was about $10,000 more than last year. So that is also why you see that vehicle expense increase. The operating expense, which includes your merchant supplies, shop supplies, your GPS software, dispatch, radios, and cellular data, totaled about $32,000, which is a whole lot less than prior year. It's $183,000 less than prior year. And that was, as you remember, you guys paid that 3-year dispatch contract last year. And so because that's not a recurrent expense year over year, it created a much bigger expense last year and smaller this year. You're still $3,000 more than budget for the current year due to some unanticipated bus stop repairs and maintenance repairs for bus signs and lane markers, and removing some old signs near Walmart and Safeway. But overall, we'll get to the budget at the end of the report. Overall, you're on track for budget. Driver expenses were $14,000 this year, and that's about $1,000 more than last year due to an increase in uniform expense. And then your advertising and marketing through the end of March was about $7,000, which is again about $1,000 more than the prior year, but very consistent. And then your grant and contract match funds for the first 3 quarters was about $120,000, which is $51,000 more than, $51,000 under budget, but $20,000 more than the prior year. So I also included a little graphic here where you can see each category comparison from this year to last year. So this year is the blue and last year is the orange. So you can see most of the categories are consistent with, of course, the biggest difference being the operating expense, as we already discussed. Any questions on those things? Okay.
Nope.
Administrative expense for the first 3 quarters of the year totaled $170,000, which is $18,000 less than the prior year, due to an $11,000 decrease in auditing and bookkeeping expenses and a $10,000 decrease in some service plan consultation fees. The total expense is still a lot less than budget due to, again, the capital projects we planned but have not yet executed. I did also include a new graphic for the admin expenses showing them horizontally versus vertically, that you can see the building expenses are very consistent. The office expenses are pretty consistent, a little higher this year than last year, but not by a ton. And then the professional fees, you can see that's the biggest difference, where you guys dropped off quite a bit on professional fees this year compared to the prior year. And then the other admin fees are very consistent. So that is that. Personnel expenses down here. So personnel expenses through the end of March was $1.17 million, which is a 40% decrease from budget, and $1.96 million. Yeah, so that was the budget, 1.96, and you were 40% less than that. The first 3 quarters of the year, the admin expense was 30% of budget, 30% less than budget, and the operating expense was 40% less than budget. And compared to the prior year, the total wages and benefits for admin was $8,400 higher, and then the operating expense was $9,300 or $9,400 higher. So your total personnel expense is only about $18,000 higher than last year. There were some fluctuations between like wages and taxes and benefits, but overall not a huge increase and very consistent year over year. Capital outlay is, of course, the biggest category that fluctuates significantly. This year, your operating equipment expense, so those are the buses last year versus this year. So our current year buses are $119,000 less than what you'd spent last year. And you did get reimbursed for all of those so far, the 3 buses you got, which is great. Other planned things are the CAT Transit Facility Redevelopment Program, which I'm sure Amy will discuss more. But the RFP was released and closed, and then the 2 additional vehicles, which are expected sometime this summer, hopefully. So that brings us to the total net revenue so far for the year, and that is $345,000, which is a whole bunch more than last year, but that's because you guys showed a big loss last year from the property purchase. So actually, if you combine those and say like, okay, how much were we under last year compared to how much are we over this year, the net between those two is about $96,000. So you're, combined looking at 2 years as a whole, you're $96,000 more than you started off at. If that makes sense. Okay. Accounts receivable. We get down here. You had a $22,000 accounts receivable from the link, which is for the Gorge Transit Pass purchases, and they usually pay fairly frequently, so we're not assuming that's going to be outstanding for too long. And the accounts payable was about $100. You guys tend to pay a bunch of bills kind of as the quarter closes, so some of the bills timing gets off, and so it looks like you paid a few bills before they actually were due, and so that makes you have a lower accounts payable at the end of the year, or end of the quarter, excuse me. Does anyone have questions on those things before we get to budget? Okay, so the preliminary budget figures for this year show that everything is well under for the year. So your actual expense compared to your adopted budget for admin materials and services is significantly under. And again, we talked about how most of that has to do with the contract expenses for capital projects. The personnel expense is also under by about $98,000. And then the capital outlay has not been spent at all. So overall, the total budget for admin this year, you're at 57%. And then the operating budget for the year, materials and services are $186,000 under budget. Personnel expenses, $692,000 under budget. And then your capital outlays very far under budget at almost 10 million. So overall, you're significantly under budget for operating. And then here's your total. I gave a little graphic too on operating adopted budget versus actual expense. Adopted budget versus actual expense. So I think that is everything. Does anyone have questions on what I have so far?
Why is the personnel expense so far under budget? Can you explain that?
I'm not sure that I do know the answer to that.
For the operating or for administrative?
Be the operating.
Operating is the big one. I think what it is we're still learning just the right amount to budget for that. And we added some extra buffer there that might not actually need to be there.
The
Well, you didn't have
retirement
Gorge amount,
contributions
right?
are a big part of that too.
Yeah.
So we budget for them, but not everybody participates, and so that's also hard to that rate too.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Greg. They're also the amount we were budgeting for 3 full months of full service, and it was what, a month and a half of full service that we did instead of months.
Don't rub it in.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Emily, did you go to some kind of graph writing class or something? I like all the graphs.
No, I just was trying to get more creative on like showing comparisons, because it's hard to like consolidate the numbers so that they're, digestible, but also have them be like visibly.
The visual helps a ton. Thank you very much.
Good. I'm glad. You're welcome.
Okay, any other questions for Emily? Emily, you're free to go if you want.
Okay, thank you. I don't know how to stop sharing. Is that something you can make happen?
We can kick her out.
Yeah, I think so.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to add one more point to the personnel expense as to why that's lower. We budgeted for 9 trips per day on the Columbia Gorge Express in the first part of the summer. And because of some of the funding uncertainties, we kept it at 7 all the way until this past weekend. So that's also a reason.
Okay. It just seemed like a big
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah, it is. 100%.
The Gorge to Mountain hours difference was we did 339 hours less this year. Last year.
So that's quite awesome.
You can just share your own screen and take over for her. Just share your doing it.
I think also the other thing I was going to point out is that in the past, the way we have been doing budget, for this year, for example, is the capital outlay being included as part of the admin and then capital outlay as part of the operating. And our goal in the future is to separate that out and have it not be part of admin or operating, and have it be kind of its own category. And that will help keep the ongoing, operating and admin costs that aren't, it will take out those fluctuations of having the operating included in those two categories. So in the future, it will hopefully make it be a little easier comparison year over year, from budget to actual. So hopefully
Okay.
our goal is to make that be easier.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
Emily.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Yeah, you too.
Aye.
Okay, we are on to agenda item number 6, which is resolution of action items. Amy?
Thank you. So the first one on the docket is the Multnomah Falls Transportation Ambassador Program contract. Staff seeks board approval of a contract with Sasquatch Shuttle to manage the Multnomah Falls Transportation Ambassador Program for the next 3 seasons. Additionally, staff requests board direction regarding the district's long-term role as the contract manager for this multi-agency initiative. So as a little bit of background, on March 18th, 2026, ICAT issued a request for proposals for the management of the Multnomah Falls Transportation Ambassador Program. One proposal was received and is submitted by Sasquatch Shuttle. Following formal evaluation, staff recommends Sasquatch Shuttle based on their extensive qualifications and successful management of the program over the past 2 years. And per our financial management policy, board approval is required for the agreement. So the scope would be for staffing and management of the ambassador program, including checking time use permits at I-84 exit 31, providing visitor assistance. This helps reduce parking lot congestion, improve safety, and ensures more reliable transit service throughout the I-84 corridor. The contract term would be May 20th through 2026 through September 6th, actually 2026, with an initial 1-year term with the option to extend up to 3 years total. And the financial limit would be not to exceed $250,000 for that full 3-year term if it is extended up to that amount. However, I would like the board to consider the following. So the 2026 proposal reflects a 27% cost increase over the previous year. This currently, actually, I learned today that we do have available funding to meet that. However, and I did do some negotiating with Sasquatch Shuttle on the contract terms, and on years that we don't have available funding, we do have the ability to reduce the scope of work, and in order to align with the contract and the approved budget. Also, during those conversations, the good thing about having an initial 1-year term with an up to 3-year extension clause is it allows us each year to kind of determine for the contractor to determine what the costs are for that year, especially right now with all the volatility that's happening. It's really hard to predict what those costs will be. But it also allows us to understand what the budget will be each year so we can create the scope of work that makes sense for that year. Yes. Does anybody have any questions on that?
You want to remind the board what kind of admin fee we get for this?
We do not get an admin fee for this. What the understanding has always been is that we pay for my time through the Columbia Gorge Express contract, as it directly relates to that service and allows that service to operate safely in a more timely manner.
Where does the funding come for this program?
Great question. So every year it changes. So this program started in 2020. This was a pilot program started between my predecessor and the Forest Service and ODOT and OPRD. And the first couple of years were actually funded through CARES funding that CAT had. And since then, it has moved to the U.S. Forest Service and ODOT and Mount Hood Experience Mount Hood and the Gorge experience. They've been funding it for the past couple of years. So it's always a kind of a conglomeration, and there's no long-term solution. So every year it's kind of, the term is looking under couch cushions to find funding for this program. And as the years have gone on, obviously it's gotten harder and harder to find those funds to pay for the program.
Okay,
So I might be jumping ahead,
No,
but with the 3-year contract,
yeah.
Why would we stay with it for 3 more years?
So the intent to do it 3 more years was to kind of give some time for the partners to figure out a long-term solution, but also create a boundary for the district of how much longer we're willing to be the contract manager.
Trying to be a good person.
Yes, we're trying to be a good person. We want to be a good partner. We want to continue to be part of the solution. But I think we're at that point where, I mean, right now the program is 6 years. And so it's not really a pilot program anymore. And at the end of the 3 years, it'll be 2028. So that's 8 years after the program was started. And
Is it 2028 or 2020?
2028, because it's 3 seasons. So this summer, next summer, and then the 28th summer.
Okay. So
Any other questions for Amy on this?
Yeah, just a quick one. I mean, can you just paint a picture of what it looks like if we don't continue to be a partner for this program? I mean, what happens if we just pull the plug?
So if we pull the plug this year, I think it's unlikely there's going to be checkers to staff the time use permit program. There's just not enough time to go through the procurement process that the other partners would need. If we pull it in 3 years' time, which is the recommendation or the suggestion, then at least there's time for our partners to understand that we are drawing this boundary, and there are some long-term solutions being worked on, but it also gives some time for the decision makers and powers that be to kind of understand that there is a deadline for when we're willing to be the contract manager for this program.
Thank you.
Good question. Any others? Okay, well, if you guys are in favor of that, I'd entertain a motion.
So just to be specific, so the 2 things we're asking is to either approve or deny the contract with the Squat Shuttle for the season and the following couple of seasons after, and then also provide direction on the recommendation to CSAR management of the program after this contract concludes.
And you want that in one motion?
Yes, if
Okay.
possible.
I move to approve the contract with Sasquatch Shuttle, as stated.
And
Okay, and that's it. And then cease the CAT's management of the program after the contract concludes.
okay, thank you. Do we have a second for that?
I second.
Okay. Further discussion? Is that why there's silence? Is there further discussion needs to happen?
Just maybe clarification on, like, I mean, this is explicitly a 1-year contract with an option for 2 further years. I mean, I just want to make sure that we're only signing up for the 1 year that we're on the hook for completely, and then we can hopefully decide in the future how it looks for us to exit.
So I think the contract would be, if you approved it, as my understanding, it'd be for 1 year, and then we could extend it up to 3 years as long as the cost and scope of work was agreeable to both parties. If you would like, we could either just do 1 year, but then that would create some more, staff would have to go through the procurement process again next year. But what we could do is we could put a stipulation in there that each year before I extend the contract, that you would like me to come back to you with the cost and the scope of work for that year.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's reasonable. It just feels like if we're trying to light a fire under someone to consider our exit strategy, that a 3-year contract maybe isn't the best way to do that.
Would staff feel better if we were compensated for the time or commissioned off of managing this contract? Otherwise, a distraction. I mean, we're doing it out of goodwill, right? We're trying to solve a problem that's transportation related on our corridor or something we provide service through or funded through. So we want to run right.
Yeah, and it does benefit us in the fact that our buses without this program, our buses are delayed more. And there's also the safety concerns with that left-handed exit. And this program has shown to help reduce that. So there is definitely some benefit to us to make sure that it keeps moving forward. And I think we can, putting my time that I spend on the management under the Columbia Gorge Express grant still makes sense. I don't think that worries me as much. It takes time to go through the procurement process every year.
Okay.
But I completely understand those concerns, and I think, of course, we'll do what the board wants to do. If you guys feel comfortable it's only that 1-year contract, then we'll do the procurement
Well, let's
process.
make it, I think we should make it easy, but does it need to be restated that you bring it to us before you sign the contract or for many
Yeah.
years or just?
Let's restate it just so it's really clear in the notes and.
Tamara, do you mind that?
No, I
amended?
don't, but I do feel the goodwill goes a long way on continuing the benefits of the program. It may not be monetary, but boy, I mean, I remember driving by the falls and being able to pull in parking time. So keeping the bus service, keeping that under control, I would hate to pull it out before anybody else gets a chance to continue what has already been done and see failure happen.
Yeah.
So realizing that it can't be done overnight because we've had it for 6 years to have it run this smooth, making sure that we give anybody else the opportunity to keep it going, I think is a gesture that the program and the board should continue on.
Yeah, I agree. I knew that answer. Amy and I already talked about that. I just wanted the board to hear it. That's why I asked it.
I mean, can we start increasing the fees over the 3-year period? I mean, does that make sense? Or, to like Matt said, I don't know what you want to do with this, but if you just slowly increase so they get the idea like, oh, maybe you ought to take this over.
Well, and it's already increasing because of just the contractor. But I think I have discussed this with both the ODOT Forest Service and Mount Hood and the Gorge, and they all understand. So that this isn't gonna go from left field. I think just having the knowledge that you guys are kind of creating a boundary for how much longer we can do this contract management will help, and that will help in our discussions with the other partners to kind of either we need to adjust the solution to something that's
Right.
a little bit more sustainable, or there needs to be a better long-term solution.
And also, 3 years from now, if no one can say, oh, they just sprung this out on us out of the blue, we can never look like the bad people. That's giving them the opportunity. Lighting a fire, that has to be on them. I don't think that should be on us.
I think 3 years, knowing what I know about the process and all the different discussions that have happened to this point, I think that gives a very clear boundary, but also as a partner shows that we're here to help, but we just we do need a specific end date to the private program.
Okay, so you're agreeable to amending your to state that Amy will bring a contract before the board on the subsequent years.
I do, but I also want it stated that I fully support the extension of 3 years.
So I think what
So-
we can do is that, maybe that the contract needs to be approved each year. And then, maybe,
We're
Well,
approving a
there's-
3-year contract. We just want you to bring it before the board each year
Right.
before you
Yes.
sign.
And
The
have a
extension,
discussion,
that's it.
yeah,
because reality,
You're recommending approving a 3-year contract, but just have the board review each year for each extension.
Correct.
Yes.
yeah.
Right. because reality, the crystal ball is pretty darn foggy on what can happen with US government in the next 6 months, let alone the next 3 years.
Okay. And I'm sorry, who seconded that? Are you still good with the seconding the amended?
Yes, I'm with Tamara. I still second.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that. All right, any further discussion beyond what we just did? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, any opposed? All right, chair votes aye. 6A has been
Sorry, an
passed.
aye for me.
Okay, thank you. 6B, accountant contract.
Right. Included in your materials was a memo for the outside accountant contract. Staff is asking that the board members review and approve the Marina and Co. contract. A little bit of background, staff released a request for quote for the outside accountant on March 5th of this year, as our current contract was ending on June 30th. We obtained 3 price quotes, and after evaluating those quotes, staff decided to move forward with Marina and Co. We selected their proposal because they have the qualifications needed, relevant experience, and met the cost criteria. Per Hood River County Transportation District's financial management policy, staff needs board approval before we can move forward with the contract with Marina. As you guys know, Marina would provide outside accounting services and support. The contract would be not to exceed amount of $250,000, and the contract period would be July 1st, 2026 through June 30th, 2029, with the option to extend for 1 year if it's mutually agreeable. I did want to point out that the quote that we received for this term is $39,650 less than our current 3-year term. We have that ends on June 30th. We can attribute this to efficiencies and streamlined processes that have been implemented over the last contract term. The action required, staff is asking that the board discuss and vote to approve or not approve the contract with Marina and Co. to provide the outside accounting services. And staff recommends that the contract be approved to move forward.
And I just wanted to clarify so the quote is a total cost of $35,000 the first year, $36,750 the second year, $38,600 the third year. So that's a total of $110,000. We're just making the contract and not to exceed $250,000 as that is allowed with the type of procurement that we did, and it just creates a nice little.
I was just about this. Why does it say 110 and then not to exceed 250 and they're only charging 110? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I think they've been great. Impressed with them, way better than what we had before, professional.
Mhm.
And we got grass.
Grass are pretty
There you
good.
go.
All right.
Is that in the contract or they have to have grass?
Should be.
Should be, yeah. It's good to have the visual stuff.
Yep.
All right, is there a motion to approve the accountant contract?
I move
I'll
to
make the
approve the Marina.
motion.
Oh, there we go. I'll second.
And Matt,
Yep, he second. Right.
okay. Megan, then Matt. All right, any further discussion on the accounting contract? Not hearing any, we'll move to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
I
Aye.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. We have an accountant contract. Perfect. Okay. We're on to 6C, the bus replacement grant application.
All right. ODOT recently released a funding opportunity notice for the competitive transit grant phase 1 application, which is funded through the Federal Transit Administration's section 5339A, grants for buses and bus facilities. Phase 1 would award $3.5 million in federal funding for vehicle replacement, right sizing, and expansion projects. Staff is asking board members to review and approve to submit the final application. Staff submitted the initial application for the purchase of 6 replacement vehicles essential to maintaining current service levels and meet demand. The vehicles will replace 1 van, 1 electric transit van, and 4 cutaways. As our service has matured, our ridership has increased. Larger vehicles are now essential to meet the increased demand. While our historical reliance on the 12 to 18 passenger cutaways served us well, current service levels require higher capacity vehicles to accommodate our expanding passenger base. Per the financial management policy, staff seeks approval to submit the final application, which will be 5339A, bus replacement competitive transit grant. Again, it'll replace the 6 vehicles. It will include 2 low floor trolleys, 2 high roof transit vans, and 2 35 to 50 foot transit buses. The total cost for this project is $1,542,480. The total estimated grant allocation would be $1,233,984. Our expected match is $308,496, and we would use our STIF formula funds and local funds for that match. The grant application is due to ODOT on May 29th. ODOT then reviews all submitted applications from Oregon transit agencies and submits them to FTA on our behalf. The timeline for the grant work to be completed is between October 2027 and September 2031. This should not have any impact on the fiscal year 27 budget, but it would be included in the fiscal year 28 budget. The action required for this is the board should discuss and vote to approve or not approve staff to submit the competitive transit grant phase 1 application. Staff's recommendation is that the board approve this grant application.
Do we know when we get notified that we got it? If it's due May 29th?
I believe, I can look really quick, but I believe we're notified in July.
This year.
Yes.
Are we going up against Portland? Or is there any limitations to who can apply for this grant? Is it all?
Phase 1 did have limitations. So there's 2 phases to it. Phase 1 is, of course, focusing on the bus replacement. There is in the document that was released, there was a focus on rural having preference first, is my understanding.
Yeah, I believe so, but I will say that just with all of these grant applications coming up, there's gonna be a lot of requests, so we're gonna be going up, but there's gonna be there's competition.
Okay. No, I'm just curious because that had been mentioned as a priority. And it seems like everything gets sucked into Portland. Okay.
Matt?
Right. So I thought 5339 was specific to like rural areas. But more to my question, I guess, is just that $3.5 million is being awarded to Oregon, and we're asking for 1.2 of that. Is that fair to say?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to be clear. Thank you. And can you clarify the 5339 scope for me, please?
Meaning just the buses?
Well, I just thought the 5339 funding was specific to rural transit districts, and then the other aspect that the other main was it 533 I don't know the number off the top of my head, but the other one was more for disabled, low income, that sort of funding. Am I wrong on that?
Well, actually, so we have Frank Thomas, who's from ODOT. He is actually going to be temporarily taking over Hovie's position as she goes on to a temporary assignment. So maybe Frank, if you're there, can I put you on the spot and clarify? Because I honestly don't know for sure if this is just for rural grants. I'm on the ODOT website and I'm not.
Yeah, you can. I actually started typing in the chat and then I thought, that's probably not my smartest move, but Section 5339A is a Federal Transit Administration fund that is for bus and bus facilities. It is not urban or rural specific. I think you might be thinking about Section 5311, which is a general public program for small cities and rural providers, or maybe Section 5310, which is for elderly and people with disabilities. So
That's right. Sorry, that's my confusion. Lots of
good.
numbers.
Yeah, we have a lot of 53 everything. Was that helpful?
It was. Thank you.
I'll go back on mute unless you need me.
Thanks, Frank. And also, this is Frank, everybody.
Hi, Frank.
Really nice to
He's
meet
a great
everybody.
resource.
Thank you for having me. I'm sorry I crashed your party late.
All right. Thank you for joining.
I move to approve.
I think Megan has a question.
Megan?
No, I was making a motion. Go ahead, Tamara, and I'll second.
Okay.
Actually, before you guys move forward, I also wanted to just clarify that with the expected match, because of these, would be a bus replacement grant. We can phase when we actually order and get those vehicles delivered, so we're not getting that full 308 requirement all in 1 year.
Okay.
All right. I move to approve the grant application as stated.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, we'll take it to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, any contrary minded? Okay, chair votes aye. Perfect. All right, we're on to 6B, the Cider Fest shuttle.
Great, thank you. So I included in your memo, in your board meeting materials, I included a memo for the Cider Fest shuttle. We have met with Cider Fest organizers and received additional information since the last board meeting. Staff is asking board members to review the Cider Fest proposal and approve staff to implement the Cider Fest the Cider Fest shuttle on May 2nd. So as you will remember, at the March 15th board meeting, we informed you that the Visit Hood River and organizers of Cider Fest has contacted staff to request shuttle service support for Cider Fest 2026. Due to a change in location, the event will be held at the Western Antique Airplane and Automobile Museum, or WAM, where weekend transit service does not currently operate. ODOT confirmed with charter rules that are listed below, and I'll also review, and determined this service fits the provisions allowed. Because transportation provided by a recipient to the public for events or functions that occur on an irregular basis or for a limited duration, and a premium fare is charged that is greater than the usual or customary fixed route fare, or the service is paid for in whole or in part by a third party. And of course, both of those exceptions apply here in this situation, as we will be a fare of $5 each way. And Cider Fest has agreed that if there's any, if the fares have not paid for the service in full, they will pay the remainder. So staff had asked the board to discuss and consider whether CAT should continue researching the feasibility of providing the service. The board supported further exploration contingent upon securing funding that does not utilize CAT financial resources. So since the March 15th board meeting, we have confirmed that the event date will be May 2nd. The operating time will be 11 a.m. to 6 p.m., which is 7 hours. The 14 trips is actually incorrect, as we've done some additional research into this service.
Are we closer to what we did, to 10 or 11?
Probably 9,
9, okay.
unless there are some solutions that we still need to discuss that could get us a higher number.
Correct, and then we'd have to work with the organizers to assume that. But as of now, the organizers have agreed to a small bus, which is up to 18 passengers, with the ADA. And the service cost for that one bus is $980 total. If the 14 trips is super important to the organizers, or a 30-minute frequency, then that would go up. But again, that would only be agreed to if they could cover any
Shortfall.
So as I stated, the shuttle tickets will be $5 each way. Kids under 10 would be free. Pre-sale tickets may be offered to estimate ridership demand. Any remaining cost difference, as I said, again, will be covered by Cider Fest organizers. The Gorge Transit Pass would not be a valid fare for the shuttle. And ridership will be tracked. Based on this information, staff contacted the executive committee to obtain general approval to move forward with the shuttle, with the understanding that formal approval will be discussed by you all today. And the step was taken to allow event organizers the opportunity to start promoting the shuttle and getting the process rolling. All right, so action required, we ask that you discuss and vote to approve or not approve this event shuttle. And as now staff is recommending that we move forward.
Perfect. Thank you. Well stated. Any questions?
What's the actual
No.
route? Oh, sorry.
Yes, so that is something that we are finalizing. Originally, the intent was to be CAT, the port stop at lot 1, and then the 4th and State Street stop, which is near the library, and then up in the Heights, the loop that does 12th Street, One Community Health, and 8th and Seaver Crop, and then the bus would go back on to 12th and go up to WAM. However, that if we shorten that route, there's the likelihood that we can make that a higher frequency. So we're going to give the organizers a couple of solutions. One of them being that we can shorten the route to not include the port stop, which would just make it a little easier to get to that 30-minute, although that's still not quite possible.
Okay.
Does that answer your question? Is that enough?
Got a thumbs up there.
Okay, cool.
Did somebody else have a question?
No, I feel like we talked about this a lot last month, and I'm so curious how it's going to work. And I hope we get a lot of riders, because I hate to think of a lot of people driving out to WAM, and then being stranded because they're too drunk to drive home. But anyway, it'll work for them too. But I'll make the motion to approve the Cider Fest shuttle.
Okay. Thank you, Megan.
Second.
All right. Tamara, any further discussion on the Cider Fest shuttle? Not hearing any. Move it to a vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Bye.
Hi.
Then once we, just to give some additional information, once we have all the marketing materials done and the visual route map concluded, we're working with Visit Hood River and City of Hood River to make sure that can be disseminated as much as possible.
Great. Thank you.
Is it worth trying to inject some sort of clause in this contract on cleaning up after drunk folks at the end of a day of drinking?
Did we bill that?
I think we could bill that.
Okay, just thought it was sensible to consider, maybe.
Yep.
Well,
no, 100%.
We were in the middle of a vote there, so we did have, I heard all the ayes. Is there anybody opposed?
Oh, sorry.
Okay, chair votes aye. All right, motion passes. And just to staff, great job on all these memos. Very clear what you're asking for. Really good detail there. Makes it really easy for us coming into the meeting. So thank you very much for that.
And just out of curiosity, how many times do you get asked to do like events like that? You know, like for.
We get asked quite a bit. I mean, most of the times they're charter events and they're not something that we can do. I think, moving forward, we can include more in our different operating plans and just general plans. If these are events that we want to help out with, like very specific ones that are within our community. That are also a collaboration with Visit the River. I think that's something that we can.
And how do you come up with a 980? Is there a price per mile, or, I mean, do the drivers complain about doing extra work, or is there, like, I don't know how that works. How does that work?
Yeah, so the operating cost per hour, what we do is we take each quarter, we have a grant calculator that calculates the cost for different types of services based on a bus. And so I take the most recent grant calculator and to determine our most recent cost of what that will, of what that expense
I
will
mean,
be.
is this a profit? Can you produce profit off of something like that or not?
I mean, probably unlikely. I
Okay,
mean, it could.
I was just curious, because we were gonna
yeah.
lose funding a couple months ago, and we're trying to figure out what would take to break even.
Yeah,
And, if we can, it looks like, if there's an event and it can be, we can pay the drivers a little extra or whatever, it seems like a,
it gets into a little iffy
right,
area.
for the charter rules, is
charter
that,
rules, yeah.
right, okay. I just saw, I'm sure there's more than 3 charter rules here.
Yes,
right?
and yeah. So basically, it's this, and there's also the other one that can be used as if we're transporting government officials. Those are kind of the biggest exceptions. But for anything else, we have to be very careful, and there's very specific rules that we would have to apply to.
Okay,
Seems like something we should do. Okay.
thank you, appreciate that. Okay, we are on to operations manager report, Jeff, and we just, so everybody knows, we are running a little bit behind on our time here, just to keep us focused and make sure we have time for the executive session here.
Great. Sweet overall safety score 99, harsh events 2.3%, moderate 0.009.
Wait, could you slow down?
No, I'm just making it happen, man, for the executive session. 0.001 was severe. So overall, we are tracking with a relatively similar safety score that we normally do. We've got OTP went up a little bit for fixed route and down a tiny bit for DAR, but we're still in the desired area. We had 1,371 vehicle hours driven, 46,469 miles driven. Fuel cost was 16,505 with an increase in fuel to point. Sorry, I do that every time. 36 cents. And we had 2 formal customer complaints, 1 vehicle incident, 10 customer incidents. If just like last time, if there's any that you guys read that you wanted to have any questions on, please ask. Otherwise, I will keep moving. Any questions? Okay. And then the 2 harsh events were 2 harsh turns that were coached by supervisors. Employee of the month. So we had Gene Jones. Gene has played a key role over the past 2 years as the ultimate flexible part-time driver. Anytime we need help covering a shift, he is quick to step in. He also supports his fellow team members by frequently picking up shifts at the direct request of the drivers. Not only does he support the CAT team, but he also puts in strong effort to make sure riders are not left stranded. He's incredibly empathetic towards passengers experiencing challenges and makes a genuine effort to connect them with resources they need. Gene is a staple at CAT and has been instrumental in keeping operations running smoothly over the past few years. He is reliable, genuinely here because he wants to help.
Awesome, congratulations, Gene.
Yeah. Okay. Moving on to ridership. So overall, we are up this month compared to last month, down from last year, likely due to Gorge to Mountain. I think the things to highlight is dial ride is up to 582, which is the second highest that we've seen this year since October. The due to our new software and that we're running about 4 hours of more service than we had previously. Upper Valley is also up, and Columbia Gorge Express is also up from last month and last year. Gorge Mountain is down. Okay. Let's see. Moving on to hours of new service. Gorge to Mountain ended, and Dog Mountain began last weekend. So I just pulled quick ridership just for reference. Dog Mountain actually started a week earlier than we normally do, and we had about 66 riders, a little lower than we anticipated, but that was also not the most ideal weather that weekend for people to be out and about. And then also I pulled a quick comparison for the whole Gorge to Mountain season. Just for reference, we did about 9,125 riders last year compared to 4,385 riders. And as I mentioned earlier in the meeting, there was a significant less amount of hours where we had 1,112 hours last year and 773 hours this year. That's about 5.7 boardings per hour for this year, and about compared to 8.2 boardings per hour last year. And then we also launched the new CGE service, which was the 10:30 run and the 1 p.m. and that all started on Saturday.
So just to clarify, we're going up from 7 to 9 trips per day.
Cool. That concludes my operations report.
Thank you for being so succinct. Appreciate that. Any questions for Jeff? See, I'm rushing you, and then we're gonna get the executive report, executive session. All right, okay, thank you. We'll move on to agenda item 8, and we'll move to 8B since we got rid of 8A.
Thank you. So that is just to review the fiscal year 2023 section 5339B discretionary grant update. So I wanted to update the board on the most recent information regarding this grant. There's no action required of the board at this time. So the fiscal year 2023 section 5339B discretionary grant was the award that the district received for, or we were awarded for, it was about $6.4 million in grant funding to redevelop the current park and ride into a bus barn and maintenance facility. If you'll all remember, however, this is the one that we still do not have an executed contract for. So it's not one that we can draw down on quite yet. It's also the one that includes the electric vehicles and electric vehicle infrastructure that we would need to run electric vehicles. So last week, we received guidance from FTA and requested a scope, and because of that guidance, we requested a scope change to remove the electric charging infrastructure and electric fuel type from that grant. The funds, if approved, would be redirected towards the facility design, construction activities, and purchase of diesel and gasoline transit vehicles. The impact this would have is this would reduce the need for a loan to pay for the match required of electric vehicles and should cover all expected costs of the redevelopment of the park and ride into a bus barn and maintenance facility. It would also make it so that the replacement vehicles grant application that you guys just approved us to move forward. If this scope change request is approved, we could potentially look at withdrawing that request and using those vehicles instead in this 5339B grant. But in order to make that decision, we would still need to know if the scope change was approved. I will update the board on the status of the scope change request at the next board meeting. And I guess that the other thing to be aware of, this unfortunately moves the district back from meeting no or low emission fleet goals.
This is just basically administration changes on their focus. And they're directing you if you really want buses to move this direction, to be able to get it.
Correct.
Yeah.
And this contract, because it's so old and has not been signed, if it is not signed soon, there is the possibility of losing all funds.
Yeah. And the reality is there's really no good electric buses either.
The technology right now has not improved and actually changed quite a bit to the negative since we applied for these funds.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks for that update. Any comments or questions?
And Frank, I'm going to put you on the spot one more time. Is there anything else that you'd like to add to that?
No, I think you covered it really well. In fact, it sort of helps prop up your request for the application for 5339A to pick up those buses that are part of your rethink in how you reallocate this project, right? So for the electric vehicles that you were looking at in that next 6 vehicle purchase, I think it aligns and it makes a lot of sense. Is that helpful?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
You bet.
Okay. Thank you, Amy.
All right.
Appreciate that. All right, we're on to agenda item number 9, which is executive session. We now move into executive session for ORS 192.6602I and 192.6608 to review and evaluate the performance of an officer, employee, or staff member if the person does not request an open meeting. The reason for executive session may not be used to do a general evaluation of an agency goal, objective, or operation, or any directive to personnel concerning those subjects. So, do I need to read that next section? I think I just did.
Yeah.
So we'll get there.
Pause the recording.
Yeah, we'll pause there.
End the meeting.
Just stay here till tomorrow if they don't come
Yeah.
in.
I'll make the motion to bring us back into regular board meeting or
Thank you,
out
Megan.
of executive session.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Jim. Further discussion? Okay, all those in favor of moving out of exec, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, we're out of exec. Okay, we're on to agenda item number 10, which is discussion items. Does the board have anything else they'd like to discuss today?
Just super quick. It's kind of an awkward one, but I would like to see us have a full board of 7 interested people. So I don't know how else to say that, but it seems like we've got one person who's consistently not here, and I'm just wondering how we go about doing something about that.
Yep.
We've
So
had that conversation, well noted.
and it is something I've been looking into and working on addressing. It's not based on the research I'm understanding, it's not really an easy task.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for stating that, Matt. Any other items the board like to discuss? Okay, upcoming events.
Budget committee, sorry, it's not on here, but budget committee meeting is happening. The first one is happening next Wednesday at 5 p.m. And I believe my board members that are on it is Greg, Matt.
Is it possible to have another board member meeting? I have
Yes.
meeting with legislators at that time to pass the recreation liability stuff.
Yes. Is there, so the other folks is Matt and Tamara. Is there another board member who might be willing to step in for Greg next Wednesday at 5 p.m.?
I nominate Jim.
I'm gonna check my calendar.
Mhm.
Next Wednesday at 5 p.m.
Yes.
Yeah, I can be here.
Okay,
Here?
great. Yes. And
Okay.
I'll send all the materials tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Matt.
Let's wait for Matt.
Under the bus, under the cat bus, as they say.
Any other upcoming events? Okay. All right, we're on to agenda item number 12. I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Tamara. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Megan. Any further? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Right.
Hi.
Any opposed? Chair votes aye. All right. Thank you, team. Appreciate everybody's contribution today. Good questions.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Great
Thank
you,
prep
everyone.
on this.
Hi.
Yeah, it was a lot to go through.
It was.
Good job.
Thank you. Thank you sorry for interrupting your motion.
That's right. I just had to follow through, right? I gotta follow the rules. I don't